Recording
no,
in progress.
and so I'll call the meeting to order. And the first agenda item is to review and approve the minutes from last time, which was March 28th, 2 weeks ago.
And we didn't have them done yet.
I didn't send them out.
Yeah.
I know
And-
I did
Yes,
them.
you did. You did.
Oh, you
Ken.
did? I didn't get
Yeah.
them.
I don't think I got them.
If you didn't get them, Pam, it was a big
April
oversight.
1st.
It was a big
April
oversight on my
1st.
part, but
Oh,
I sent them out.
Yep.
Long
Check your
time ago.
emails. April 1st. They went
okay.
out.
Am I on there?
I thought
let's
you
see.
should be. I made a mistake
Okay.
if you didn't.
Yep,
It
you're on
might
there.
have been my fault,
Okay,
but
I must have missed it. Sorry. I didn't think they were in.
well, did enough people get to look at them to be able to vote on it?
Yeah.
Or do you want more time?
Yours are always perfect, so I'd vote yes, just knowing that. So,
Yep. They're good.
Okay, all in favor then?
aye.
Okay,
Aye.
all right. And Pam, if you don't see it in your thing, I'll be happy to send it to you as soon as
Okay,
we're done.
thanks. I've been having some email problems, so it might be in the cloud somewhere.
I have two, actually.
Okay, the next agenda item is the implementation matrix, and so I guess I had thought we had sort of finished that, but Pam, I'll turn it over to you or Olivia, I guess, as to what we should discuss on that.
At the last meeting, we just said we're gonna add some expected timetables of when the implementation
Oh, that's right.
items should get
That's right.
complete, so those
Right.
were added, and then we pulled out kind of a top 10 list for each time frame, and that was done in a different document that was also in the Google Drive.
Okay.
Ah.
Do you want to put that up and
Sure.
kind of quickly walk us through it?
I just have a quick question too, as far as preference goes. I know there were a couple comments about it being challenging trying to assign a value to certain items, especially if they're more of a long-term action with numerous steps and different costs associated. Some matrices do have that column and some don't. So that is something we could leave out if you want, or we can leave it in and just try to guess and also indicate that certain costs might be like a multi-step process.
I think we discussed that at the last meeting, Olivia, and it was so hard to kind of assign and guess. We thought it'd be better just to leave
Yeah, I
it
think
out.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and as things happen, you know, I'm sure you guys will kind of have a better understanding of what things will cost too.
Well, and costs are just fluctuating so much in certain fields
Yeah.
right now. So I think it makes sense to prioritize the idea of things and then get real with the numbers when decisions are being made.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It could be controversial too if something,
Right.
whatever we make up. So, so these were just things I pulled based on survey results and just discussion on things that have gotten more attention than others. Also, sometimes there were like 5 or 6 goals related to each other, so I tried to consolidate them and prioritize those types of things. So I created a column for associated goals with the high priority items. So I don't know if people want time to go through this, and you can provide your comments in the Google Drive. This was kind of, Olivia, we talked about this last time, is just because the action item, the implementation chart is so long, we thought we'd pull out like the top 10 priority things that have come about through the process of the master plan. So the various boards and staff kind of don't get overwhelmed. They know which maybe they could pick from.
Is the idea
and
that
prioritize.
this table is after or before the rest of the implementation matrix?
It would be after, I would suspect.
Okay,
Yeah,
and then
that makes
maybe,
sense.
and maybe in the executive summary or something.
Yeah, towards the back of the plan, just as a suggestion, we'll make it clear that this isn't set in stone, but these are things that the various boards might want to consider a top priority.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Just pull out the high priority. We can have that as a separate table, put it in the plan and also the executive summary.
I also like the idea of consolidating because we had some discussions of whether things should be spread out in the different ones or not. And so this does both, that they leave them where they are in their home and then highlight them this way. So I think this is a good way to do it.
We need it to be really easy for people to read and find. Right? So figuring out a way to make sure that the things that we think are most important are the things that they notice first, and that they can skim over the things that are somehow not highlighted. I'm not sure what I'm saying here. You said, I don't think you want to have a bazillion of these. These are the terribly important things, and it's X number of pages of it, of
Right.
that.
Now,
Yeah,
how many pages of it is it?
we
Yeah.
just, it's,
Just
it's hard to say on
basically
the Google
two?
Drive. It'll probably be 3.
So what is,
So 1 for each time, maybe 1 to 2 is a little heavier than the rest. We can take a few
oh, I
out.
see. So you haven't broken down by time period.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you make the
Well, that-
community preservation one more general, not just about housing?
Yeah, I was hesitant to change it in both tables, so I put 1 as a high priority and then put the associated goals references to the others. Because once you
Yeah, I like
adopt it,
that.
once you adopt it, you have to apply it to all 3. And I
Right,
know we had discussion about keeping it in each category, so I was hesitant to take it out as one.
Right, but if we're trying to sell it, the least, I just think
Where is it?
under the description, which is, it was on the first page, 2 point,
Yeah, which
Oh,
is the one that
2.4.
falls under
2.4.
housing. but
Just
it does so
take
much more
out,
than
Yeah.
that.
you know, put to
Here,
fund
this is,
housing,
Yeah, right,
recreation,
but
and historic goals, or something like that. Make it,
yeah,
make the
Yes,
description more, not just
Okay.
housing.
generic
I'll
to
just
the, to
combine
the
the
other
3
ones that
into
it fits
one.
in.
It
Just
can be
narrative.
one item, but just the description should be
Yeah,
fund.
yeah, and you could either do it that way, or if you wanted, you could end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the left-hand column. And because you would be covering the 3 numbers over in the right-hand column.
Right, but make sure you put recreate,
Yeah.
something
yeah,
about recreation,
Open space and recreation
open space, and
and
Historic.
and
historical, right?
historic renovations,
Yeah,
because
no, if you look at the definition, open space, historic, affordable housing.
Mhm.
And
Recreation.
recreation. So those 4 items.
yeah, and take out senior for housing, because it's any housing.
But now, okay, then we have
That's
to go back
affordable
and change.
housing.
I don't want to get into going back to the other goals and changing everything in all the other tables.
Yeah, but you don't
You
need
know,
to.
don't
it's-
have to, you don't have to. This
If-
is just for the
Yeah,
short
if this is
list.
going to stand alone, then it doesn't make any difference, particularly if you have referenced them as you're doing there. So I think that would be fine.
Okay,
But I can
And
see
that-
the
yeah, that way you
challenge,
can
Pam,
take
if
out,
it's-
and you can take out affordable and senior housing and just say
Housing,
fund housing, open
well, it
space
is
recreation
affordable
and
specifically.
historical
Okay.
preservation,
yeah, affordable housing.
or affordable, whichever.
Yeah.
but-
It's housing.
So that,
Pam,
that's a good point.
Yes,
Were you able to get that email out to folks that I sent
yes.
you?
Yeah, we all
Awesome.
saw it.
Okay, great. So, and
I'll
Yeah,
pull it up
we'll
in
get to the
one.
detail.
yeah, I was
You
gonna
wanna-
say, this might not be the time, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't go without clarifying that.
I'll pull it up right after we're done with this, Stasha, okay?
No worries, take your time.
Alright. So do you want to take some time and,
So can we make this an action for the next meeting? We need to look over this and,
yeah, if you'd like to look over it and see if you want to add anything or take anything out, just edit it in the Google Drive.
so it's gonna be implementation matrix dated 4/5/24?
No, it's it's called top 10.
Okay,
Yep.
top 10.
I like the concept though, and as Sharon was saying, it's very easy to review them and understand what you're talking about. So that's very good. And I think, I don't know if it was end up saving space, but I think if we don't try to stick with the same language necessarily when we're combining these things, then it may be that we can come up with a shorter write-up that still reflects what we're talking about, since it goes back to the to identify what they all come from anyway.
Can I ask a question here about if we're talking about protecting remaining farmland, why are we saying working with local farms and landowners?
Which one?
So that's one 131.
Oh,
If
gotcha.
if it's a farming situation, why are we talking to landowners who are not farmers?
I guess the thought was there could be land that maybe had prior agricultural use or isn't active farmland, but still could maybe qualify under like an agricultural preservation restriction or some type of
And I don't know if there's any in Bolton, but I do know of farmers that lease land from the owners for farming activity.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
Okay,
fine.
that
so
makes
okay,
sense.
so that um if I'm confused by it, however, we might want to clarify that a bit so that it's for somebody who doesn't hear you explaining it, Pam.
Local farms.
So working with local farms and landowners with potential farming land, something like that. But
yeah, I think the switching the words around to say, you know, local farms for agricultural preservation restrictions and other landowners to secure conservation restrictions, because those would be separate preservation methods depending on the type of land. But yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Pam, can we look at the next page of that?
um,
I tried to make sure that each chapter was represented, but
Yeah, this is very well done.
mm. Are not it says all potential public meeting locations. So these are ones that are not being used now, because the ones that are being used now all have ADA compliance requirements, do they not? If they're being used as public gathering spaces,
No,
they're not?
No.
Oh,
You might hope so, but
No,
no, they're not.
I don't think the town, I mean, I know the town hall has the mechanical chair, but otherwise it's hard to get down to that first floor, I think. I don't know.
Mhm.
Did I miss it, or is the community center or whatever name we gave it included in this?
oh, it's in here, yeah.
I assumed it was, but I just didn't see it.
There's
Oh,
still
okay,
another
right.
page.
Got you. Okay,
there it is. 621.
okay, that's fine.
And it was mentioned in a few goals, so those other reference goals are here in this column.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm ready for the next page when everybody else is.
Go. Here we are. Whoops. Mhm.
why would digitizing documents be pushed out to 5 years? I mean, that's not a hard job. And the library is already a member of Digital Commonwealth. And I mean, we digitized the first town book. When I say we, the Historical Society, we just hired a photographer. Now, that's not the correct way to do it, but we needed it done quickly. I mean, but it's a easy thing. We already have, we're paying to be members of Digital Commonwealth, at least the library is, and it's a nominal fee, especially for nonprofits or for towns. And so I don't see 5 years out. I mean, that would be something that could be done within a year.
Yeah, and it should be. I mean, they're at risk at this point, are they not still?
Yeah. And we're not talking about a lot.
Also, you can break it up. You can
Yeah.
put something on
Yeah.
every year. Harvard just passed one. They have a warrant, every other year to digitize more, and it always passes at town meeting. It's not a big deal. It's not, it's like this. Sometimes I think this town is afraid to even ask.
So what if we put it as 416, put that as create a process for digitizing historical documents?
I don't think you
And-
need to create a process. You just need to do it.
Yeah, right, yes.
Well, but I was hearing what Kia was saying, which is that they've got a process where every year they roll over so much of their, and maybe I was hearing that wrong.
Well, no,
just-
first of all, the town needs to figure out what they need to digitize. Harvard may have a lot more, and that's why they break it up year by year.
we could move
Okay.
it up to the beginning section and
Yeah. I
put the
just
word
don't think-
begin in
yeah.
front of,
Is it a high
Digitize.
priority item though? Do we want
Yes,
to
it
keep it on
is.
the prioritization? Is this just? And
It is high priority because our historical documents are at risk.
okay,
now.
it's marked low, so we want to change it to high in both tables.
I would think. Mary,
Yeah.
you're our
I mean,
person here.
You know, if town hall burns down tomorrow, they're gone.
Yeah. Yep.
They're not in a fire safe anything?
They're in a very old file cabinet.
Yep.
That's not
No.
fireproof?
It might be fireproof. I
Not
don't know.
necessarily
I don't
all
know
of
if
them
it's
are in it either.
fireproof or waterproof. I'm
Okay, no, that's.
I mean,
the-
they
did
probably
not know
are,
that,
but
Mary, that's
it's-
horrifying.
Yeah.
That's the
I can
cruise thing that's
remember-
horrifying.
I can remember, 10 or 15 years ago when every time we turned around, Betsy Cusson was wanting to get a vault, to build a new vault for the town so the documents could be put into it. Well, that never happened, but you know, so yeah, I think we could,
I think it should be high
I think we
priority.
could move it up.
Yeah, I
and
agree,
it's
especially
simple.
because there is so much, I mean, anybody who has the historical knowledge about the $480,000 we were like discussion about a vault, you know, like we can digitize for, you know, obviously not that much and at least have the images.
Yes,
The
but
vault was like a
Stasha, you
huge
have to be
expense.
aware, the state requires that the actual documents be kept. And there is a law that
Okay.
towns are supposed to have a vault. And
Okay.
there have been 3 committees since Betsy Cousin to try to get a vault built, and
Okay.
they've gone nowhere.
Is there, okay, and this is a discussion for another day probably, but I wanted when Pam presented it 10 years ago as a need to the finance committee, I wanted nothing more than to say yes, except that the cost of it was $480,000. I won't forget that number because I was like, how, you know, so I would like if there's a way we can get a vault or at least something fireproof, like that to me is a no-brainer. But I don't want that to take away from the fact that I do think it's important to digitalize them as well. Like, so
Well,
that's just my 2 cents.
yes, you also have to understand by digitizing, then people have access to these documents.
Yes,
Which I think is a good thing, no?
we're historians.
Yeah.
And people
Yeah, I
interested
was
in
gonna say,
history. Yes,
I
yes.
looked
Yeah.
through every one of them.
It's the history of ours. I
Yeah.
would vote to put it into the major priority, you know, thing and figure out if it's not in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, right,
The reason-
exactly. The digitizing, I think, is a no-brainer to go high
Right.
priority. And it's not like there's a ton of historical stuff going high priority. Like this is something, it does seem like a no-brainer to me.
Mary, you're our go-to person here.
Yeah, what
Well, yeah, so
She agrees.
Yeah, I already made the note. We can.
yes, it was
Thank
moved
you.
up. It's
Yep.
good.
Yep.
okay.
Okay,
Looks great, Pam.
okay, so we'll all, again, take the action to review all these and get comments put online. That'll be good.
Pam, would you mind sending out a link to this?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I have the hardest time finding stuff in Dropbox. It's just me, but if it's a link in my email, it will be like an actionable thing for me. So
It should have been in the email maybe that I sent with the agenda, but
Okay, I can look.
I have a hard time remembering what I sent out to. So
All right, no, I can look.
I
at
will
have the agenda.
absolutely do it again. It's in the implementation folder. It's just labeled as top 10,
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
but I'll do it in the morning.
Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, so shall we move to, is there anything else in the regular part of the implementation matrix that we need to discuss?
No, that was all finalized.
Okay,
Well, there was that one question
Yeah.
about the buy down.
Yep.
That's
Oh,
what
okay.
all that information I
yeah,
sent
so
to you
this
guys.
is what Stasha sent out, so, yeah, so why don't you go ahead and briefly tell us about that for those that
Sure. So,
that either
in
hadn't seen
short-
your email or weren't there.
Sure, no problem. So in short, it was it was 3 pages of our housing production plan. So that explained the implications of trying to preserve the affordable housing units at Bolton Woods Way, what it means to buy down existing affordable units, what it means to also try to buy down market homes. And the kind of the challenges around that in terms of trying to nail down cost and how, and which I think we've decided already, we're not going to put cost in as a consideration anyway. The thing that struck me, and I knew that a bunch of them had rolled off and had expired, the deeds, It looks like there may only be 2 units left that haven't expired. So it's still actionable. Those units can, are, and I don't know if, I don't know enough about the nuts and bolts of the process, but it's based on all of this information. And then I also had, the minutes from 2 selectmen meetings, that I put in the back that explained, the town's stance over the last 10, 15 years on these units. In short, my recommendation is to leave it in, certainly, because there are still units that have not, their deeds have not expired. But my suggestion was to break apart 2.1.6 and into 2 actionable pieces, one being to work with existing Bolton Woods Way homeowners to replace the expiring deed restrictions with universal deed restrictions. And the second was to consider using the Affordable Housing Trust funds to buy down the cost of the affordable and existing market units at Bolton Woods Way to keep or make them SHI eligible. Our Affordable Housing Trust has about $300,000 in it. That's not going to go very far in this process, especially because the delta now between what market rate houses are going for and affordable houses, if we're going to buy them down, those are, I don't have exact numbers. It's really difficult to get exact numbers, but in the housing production plan, it's stated that this would require using quote unquote substantial funds from the trust to gain minimal units. And so the question becomes, does that Affordable Housing Trust money, that $300,000, is it better spent buying a piece of land that we then, slate for some type of cottage housing, or is it better spent to do this, buy down process? That's a conversation that I don't think belongs here in this meeting, but I think it makes sense to keep these actions, but as considerations and working with, and we also discussed, is it high, medium, or low? And I would recommend that it's a medium priority. There's not a lot of them, and there is a significant cost out of the Affordable Housing Trust to implement it. So that's where I'm at with that, and I'm happy to answer questions or try to answer questions. It did make a lot of sense to break it into 2, I believe, unless Pam, tell me if it doesn't make sense because you can only replace the expiring deed restrictions when there's a sale. That occurred to me. So maybe they do need to stay together because you can't replace an expiring deed restriction unless there's a sale of a house. But if there's a way to do it otherwise, and again, I don't know this process well enough, it made sense to try to keep the deed restrictions on the ones we had, and it made sense to consider buying down. Those 2 things still made sense in the context of this master plan.
Can I ask a question? What's the difference between keeping and buying down? Is it whether or not the house is up for sale?
So yeah, if it's
the question is, we want to keep affordable housing, right? We want
right.
Keep
Well, keep it affordable if possible.
But if they go past a certain time, then they can go open market.
Yes.
The people who have been
Right.
living in them can sell them at open market, even though they bought
Right.
them.
Yep. The town gets the
affordable.
right of
Right.
first refusal on those. So there's a period of time where they consider, hey, do we want to implement something, take money from our Affordable Housing Trust and keep the house in a affordable on the subsidized housing index, which means that you have to match a certain algorithm and keep the price at a certain point. So, and again, in that email, there was an example of a house that sold, and I think it was in 2018, The time allotted to the town to find an eligible buyer expired. So the unit was sold. It was an affordable unit, but it was sold at fair market value for $274,000. The deed restriction was released from the property. The unit was removed from Bolton's subsidized housing inventory. The town was compensated $31,000 for losing the affordable unit. Those funds were put into the Affordable Housing Trust. But buying down in this particular case, which would have been from 274,000, the buy down was it was a $44,700 buy down. So the town would have bought down from 274,000 to 229,300. That was the delta, but the 44,700 was the delta between those two costs. The regular market rate 274, the affordable 229. We were in the middle, or we were going to buy down that cost. That would have been a cost of the town of $44,700. I believe something like that. Instead, it sold at fair market value, so that there was realtor fees. There were like 5% realtor fees, which ended up being $13,700. So off of the 44,700, so we ended up pocketing for the Affordable Housing Trust $31,000. That was a lot of numbers.
Yes.
I'm sorry to throw that out. But that's you guys had asked for all those numbers last week, and I was like, I got the numbers, but I in short, we made $31,000 instead of spending 44,700. And so it's a tough, but we lost a unit. So that's the, I think that's the conversation that keeps going around and around.
Yeah, so we don't want to lose these affordable housing units. We have so few of them. Right.
So I think so. We actually have 229 about to come on to our subsidized housing inventory. So we have 15%, which is of our housing stock.
We count the apartments. Okay.
Yep.
But we're
those
counting
count. So we don't technically we don't need these anymore in order to qualify for being 40B exempt.
Right. But we also are talking about how we want to be able to have people live in detached single family dwellings that are affordable. And so for us to let these go,
I agree.
For 44
and the
grand
question
or
becomes,
something,
is that
we
money
wouldn't
better
spend
spent
that
somewhere else to make more, to create more? Is there a better?
Yeah, but we're not going to create more single family dwellings. We're going to put these people in the big box.
No, Sharon, I'm talking about, so you think future, right? So the Affordable Housing Trust is a pool of money that is used to create affordable housing. So for example, if the cottage overlay passes at some point and we want to put affordable units in there, the town has leverage in that money to do something in whatever future development we have. And I'm not saying that it's a bad idea to buy down the houses in Bolton Woods Way. I'm just saying there are lots of the conversation is that there's lots of other things to do with that money too. And what is the most cost effective, what gives us the most units, or the most benefit to the folks who need the units? That's kind of still up for discussion, I think.
But the argument is, I think, one argument is it's okay if we can lose, we will lose one affordable house. These houses don't look like my house, or they're smaller than my house. All these things, and we're willing to lose that because sometime in the future we might be able to use it for somebody else. Why lose it now?
Yeah, no, that's a great.
It makes no sense to lose it now.
Which is why it needs
we
to
might be
stay
able to
in
use
this
it in the
plan.
future. Yeah.
Yep. That's why it needs to stay in this plan.
That would be my argument, that we should not put ourselves in a position to lose a currently affordable house, because there are people out there who would like to move in as soon as that house goes on the market.
I totally agree that it definitely needs to be considered. Oh, is that did you just pull up my email?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been up for a while.
it's been up for a
Oh,
while.
sorry. I've been focused on the little box with Sharon's face in it.
So,
Yeah, so those were my suggestions to change. I had, in essence, it's splitting up 2.1.6 into two specific
Mhm.
actions and keeping, but making 2.1.8, keeping the continually implement and update Bolton's housing production plan.
Just keep it low.
So 2.1.6 and 2.1.7 are both in the housing production plan. So I mean, it's consistent with 2.1.8. It's just, there's a whole bunch of other stuff in 2.1.8 that's not in this implementation matrix as specific as this buy down action.
This language is
I think
always
these are good
strange to me.
changes.
Yeah, I think
Can I
that
just
makes sense.
ask you to say, if you buy down the cost of affordable housing, does that mean we take it off the market or we leave it on the market as
We keep it as
affordable?
as an affordable unit.
Okay, so buying down is keeping it as
Keeping it.
affordable.
Yep.
Okay.
I
keeping it as
think
affordable.
a better
right.
way to reframe that goal and make it less area specific, and also leave room for other affordable units that might be created in the future could be
Nice.
to use affordable housing trust funds to either, work
Oh.
with existing homeowners or to
Yep.
buy down, you know,
Just get Bolton Woods way out of there.
right.
That's a
just
good point. That's a good point.
remove yeah.
My head was so focused on that grouping of houses, but you're absolutely right. It should be
Right.
more general to stay inclusive with all units in
Well, it's the
town.
only one that people have dealt with in the last 20 years,
That's right.
so it isn't
That's right.
surprising.
And because they're the only ones right now to buy down, the rest of them are in perpetuity.
Exactly.
So yeah.
What ones do we
But
have
to
there in
cover future ones
perpetuity?
is a good
Just
idea.
were those the ones in perpetuity were done by
All
by
the ones
owners?
in the senior housing, the all the ones that are in where
those
else do we have
apartments,
them?
just that.
The up on the hill, Sunset Ridge, Pondside. Is it Pondside? Yeah. I have a list somewhere, Sharon,
Okay, so
Yeah.
there are set aside units.
that are
There,
on our.
okay.
Yeah,
that's-
in
that's-
Sunset Ridge and
Oh.
Pondside and those, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I have the 23, every year DHCD sends us a inventory to sign off on. So we have 2023s.
Mhm.
Which shows the permitted units at 580 Main Street, right?
It does, yes.
Yep.
Which have
I noticed
since come off the list, but will
Why?
hopefully be back on soon.
Oh,
Because you
geez.
only
Okay.
have a year after the granting of
To
the
be in safe
comprehensive.
harbor.
I'm sorry, what's that?
No, I'm sorry. I spoke over you, Pam. Say again.
Wow.
You only have a year after granting of the comprehensive permit to pull a building permit, and if it's not pulled within that year, the units come off your inventory until the building permit is issued.
Oh, boy.
Mm.
Okay. So this would belong up, I think, above, right?
Yeah, I'll add them in later. I don't want to, it's a little wonky to insert
Yeah,
rows
no
in
worries.
Google
And because
Docs.
I know
Yeah.
then it changes it in your other draft
Yep.
too, that your top
Yeah.
10. So
Yeah, I want
I
to
can
spend some
appreciate what
time
you're
and
doing here.
do it offline.
Yep.
Um,
I get that.
other-
Sorry
And do
for
they
that
get
whole-
added back once they start building them?
Yes, as soon as the building permit's issued.
Okay. Okay,
And then I'm going to do it 5 years out. That is the 5 years when it starts? Or is it current?
5 years.
It's there's a column there that says 5 years on it. Is
Oh,
when?
that was the time frame. Well, I
Yeah, you just got out of that file.
well, I think she had that as that was the time frame for the set of goals.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, my dog is
mean, to set the goals in 5 years? Or I'm
To
not.
work on it. Cause it was,
To work on
it
it
was
within 5
identified.
years.
Oh. Okay, so those are goals for the town to do this. Yeah.
Sorry, my
Right.
dog's barking. Shh.
Can't hear it.
They-
It's a very quiet dog.
I think she's muting
So we
herself
all
so we
set on
don't
this,
hear
or
it.
are we gonna go back?
She's 6
Pam, were
months,
you-
so
were
I'm
you
trying.
bringing- Pam, were you bringing something else up, or are we going back on? Or
Nope,
we
nope.
moving on? Okay, so we're ready to move on then?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
So I guess the next thing is the sections 1 through 4. If people got to review those, and those were posted in 2 ways. Pam gave you the links to the Google Drive, and Olivia gave you a link to a PDF. So has anybody had a chance to look at those?
Yep. Are we going page by page, or do we want to give input on specific big things, or how do you want to do it, Ken?
Well, we don't have time to do it page by page. It's
Yeah,
because
that-
there's 62 of them.
Can I go back to the
I guess-
implement? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry,
please.
Ken.
Yes, no, if you want to go back, that's
Going
fine.
back to the implementation. So one of the things for transportation that people strongly want is to see a better sidewalk network and, some sort of bike cycling accommodations, shared paths. And I'm not seeing anything like that in this matrix. Some
the
are
top 10, you
some are
mean?
short-term projects like, that can be accomplished through complete streets. Others may be very large projects that might be involved like a tip project. Some are not possible on our streets, but it is one thing that if you look at survey results is the one thing that people want.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's several in the matrix that discuss sidewalks, bike
Mhm.
lanes. I don't know if maybe you were looking at the top 10 goals and
Yeah,
maybe
the top 10 that we were
Oh,
just
gotcha.
going through.
Okay.
Yes, I've seen it
All right, so
in
just
other.
just go through and mark it in the Google Drive what you think should be added.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, so there are really 2 things. You can look at the way each one is worded and how it's related to the other ones, and then you can maybe go back to the matrix and say, oh, wow, they left that out, kind of review. Okay, so everybody should include that in their reviews then. I guess what I would suggest is that we first just kind of roll through the first section, which is the background information anyway, and just see if anybody has any particular comments on it, but not really spend any time there reviewing anything that's in detail. I did that earlier today, and I don't recall specific things that I had, but I was able to get through that pretty quickly by just kind of scrolling down through it, so.
This is the master plan summary, individual page.
Yeah, so Pam, why don't you bring up section 1 if you, or, yeah,
I'm
whatever you
looking for
have
it.
in that. I actually have it on my machine if you want.
I have the like
No, I don't.
working
No, I don't.
document
I'm sorry.
in Word, Pam, if that's easy. I can just pull it up.
Yeah, I think it would be. It's a
I
little,
thi- Yeah, the format gets crazy in Google Drive because
Yeah.
Google and Microsoft don't like each other. Oh, I think I need permission to share my screen.
oh, sorry. You should be all set.
Okay. This one. Okay. So this was my, best guess at all the committee members and town staff that we spoke with, but I'm sure we'll have additions and modifications at the end.
Yeah, it was good there.
Yeah, I could just scroll through, and then if
Yeah.
there's anything
Mhm.
Yeah, the
people,
only thought I had on that particular page is whether other people who were on the plan when we started but are no longer on should be mentioned.
that's a good point.
And I
Yeah.
don't know the answer to that. I mean, we had Pam's two predecessors, at least, who contributed to it, and we know there's some people who've left the committee and stuff, so I don't know. So it's just a thought, but it's not that important. And I think the beginning of it with what a plan is fine, and I was impressed with the list of all the other studies that have been done. I really liked that. The
So-
planning process seemed fine, and I remember that, that was one of the things that the planning diagram is Kia's, and the other thing was something Brian did for us, and then this list is very nice and shows that there's been a lot going on around here.
Can I chime in?
There was something.
Yeah.
Any comments anybody has? It's just rolling through.
Yes.
It's there's a lot of statistical stuff that I couldn't I'm just
Yeah,
beyond
I
me,
had some
but
trouble with some of this
it
too.
will be proofread.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
But there
so
was
I
something-
wasn't going to go into, errors and
Yeah,
proofreading.
one of the suggestions that, and I don't even know if it would work out, but in the next thing just below this on the population, I think that the two different projections, can you roll below that slightly?
Mhm.
Yeah, so those two different ones are totally different time frames. But you have to look carefully at them to realize that.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so what might be better would be to have a single graph that has the two lines on it identified in one case as one thing and the other case as the other, because that would then but have them on the same timelines, and that would show you that
Yeah.
those guys said that the last 20 years would be up a little bit where the others didn't, and then the other people are the ones that pick up the future after that. So anyway, that would be my suggestion about that. And I think that could probably be done fairly easily without harming anybody's view of what the population stuff might be.
Yeah.
But it would just really make it easier for a reader to understand what's there.
I seem to have gotten a document with a lot of these pages missing, which is strange, but I wound up throwing out, or taking out at least 8 blank pages, and some of the stuff that you're showing me, I don't have. So that's really interesting. I
Yeah,
just
it's just a lot
downloaded
of-
the document that was attached, and that's what I got.
Yes, this is a lot of like population data that we had pulled for the existing conditions report, and then as we were kind of working through what should be in which document and what made sense for, the timeline, I think we thought population looking into the future, it would make more sense to put that in the master plan itself, whereas like the existing conditions is more past up until current day. So we thought it just would read easier to have it in here. So that's why that all got put in here.
Can I ask you a question on this data, this Bolton at a glance data?
Mhm.
Was that pulled, I can see the data points at the or the resources at the bottom, but like this total housing units data point of 1976,
Mhm.
I keep coming up with 1982 on the 2020 census. And I'm wondering,
Okay.
I'm sure it's, there's a reason that it's like that, especially if it was pulled from a,
Yeah.
generated chart or something. But
Sometimes census data can be funny. I think,
I mean, it's
yeah,
close.
the 5-year estimates can vary from like the 2020 data itself for like the designated year. So we can look to see if we can, double check those
It-
and make sure they're the most recent.
It was, it was the only one that struck me. Well, two things struck me on this bulletin at a glance. The first was just that number, because I've been living and breathing the 1982 number. So I was like, ooh, that's different than what I've
Yeah.
been working with. But again, it's pretty close, but it does say later in this document, it references it as 1982. So I just,
Okay.
for the sake of it being
Yeah.
the same, one of them has to change. The other thing that, and I don't know if, again, this might just be the way it's reported out, but we had the total land area as 20 square miles and then the conservation area as 2,000 acres. And I had to go in and do my own little calculation to figure out that we've got 12,800 approximate acres of total land area, just so that
Mhm.
those data points would be more meaningful and comparative.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if it made sense to either put both, so that, or one or the other. Does that make
Now,
sense?
that number's actually
Yeah.
later in the plan,
Okay.
It is. They specify like the,
but you're right. It ought to be the same here. Make a lot
Right.
more
at
sense.
a glance, it's not. Yeah. Anyway, that's just food
Okay.
for thought.
Yeah, I can check that too. I know the state just published their GIS data for like open space and conservation stuff. So, like last month, so I can pull their most recent number of conservation too. Then we have some of the maps updated.
And you had some nice information from the surveys and the form that we had. So I think that's very good stuff to
Mhm.
have in there,
Absolutely.
because the SWOT's
Kinda.
there.
Yeah, I tried to make it as concise, but not leaving people
Yeah,
without
and
enough
having some of it
information.
in tables makes it readable and things like that, so that's good.
Keeping it visual. For this, we'll do a table in the appendix that has everybody's individual comments based on location as well. So that'll be there.
So these are all existing conditions. And we're
Yeah.
on
Essentially,
page,
yes.
we're on page what?
31.
31. How big is this thing gonna be?
I mean, typically they're pretty lengthy. I'd say, over 100 pages isn't unusual. But there will be the executive summary, which all of these will be summarized
Yeah.
into a single page.
And the executive summary will be what most people would have and keep around, and then know to go to this if they wanted to.
Okay.
I think
Our
this
last
is
one
okay.
was 87
Yeah,
pages.
see, here's where, right there in the middle is where you have 20 square miles, about 12,800
Yep.
acres.
Yep. Which I appreciated that. Like I read that and was like, oh, there it is. But before I got to that, I was already doing the calculations back on that at a glance thing, trying to make it meaningful. But I like that. I like this clarification here in the start of the land use.
But I got confused a little later in this section,
Okay.
in the discussion about developable land.
Yeah.
It was very confusing to me.
Okay.
Right, okay, right
Yep.
there.
And this next page.
And unfortunately, even on the next page, it didn't help me a whole lot to really understand But I guess, so are we really saying then well, what are we saying in the first line there of developable or potentially developable land? Because 655 acres is not very much.
Right. So yeah, based on, I can pull up the map. I mean, based on, certain conditions that we had looked at, and environmental conditions, certain types of landscapes that aren't ideal for developing, that have, natural benefits to the area, and as well as zoning. We also removed parcels that were developed after a certain period of time. So those are, recently built houses. And we also removed parcels of a certain size that, are parts of existing subdivisions. But we did leave in parcels that don't have anything built on them. So you'll see like these smaller areas are like subdivision plots that were never built. So this orange land is what we considered as potentially undevelopable, and then all of the blue is undevelopable or undevelopable land. So there's some overlap between those two, which makes it sort of wishy-washy. It's not really
So answer me this
a
about,
binary thing.
let me ask this about the developable then. Is that by existing lots
Yeah, so these
or,
red, white,
so-
and purple lots
so if I
are
own,
the developable.
if I owned a 30-acre parcel that my house was on, and the rest of the land around me was developable, you're not counting that. Okay.
Yeah, so correct. We're including lots that
Okay, so,
have ideal conditions for development. So there could,
Okay,
you
so-
could have a
so-
large piece of property, but
so
getting down to that nitty
well,
gritty.
that's a very interesting number then. But what we might want to do is put in a caveat or clarification or something that says that under current zoning or
Mhm.
something to that effect, so that I don't know, so that what, but
No, something has to go in
it's-
there, some kind of caveat, because there's areas, like you've got in here that it's undevelopable, areas of critical environmental concern are undevelopable or protected land, and it's not, there's a lot, buildable lot in that area on the top left of that map.
Okay.
It's
So
also
there's
weird that
definitely some discrepancies,
it
not in a
looks,
bad way, just like,
it looks
Yeah.
like
Sorry.
you've got undevelopable, some major land that I would think is very of great concern to us, like the whole Davis farmland and the whole Camp Resolute is on this map as undevelopable.
So
and it could be
yeah.
if it comes out of like agricultural restriction or whatever, right?
yeah, so it's,
Right.
because that is definitely not undevelopable.
I mean, that it's not at all undevelopable. In fact, it's at risk. And
Yeah,
Camp
I
Resolute
wasn't-
Yeah,
Camp
that's right.
Resolute is at risk.
I guess the
mean,
bigger question is, Olivia, is how did these lots get picked and not others? What was the process?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, we had like our GIS analysts do all of this, so they, based on certain criteria that we gave them, and I describe it a little bit above, which it might be
Is it
easier to
is it
read here.
possible to create a map that is of larger scale and maybe even tied to the assessor's maps, so that those of us who have some knowledge of the town would be able to see those kinds of things, such as what Kia just noted, because she's right that the Camp Resolute, which is, I know, is 143 acres.
Yeah.
is all developable. Yeah, well, no, certainly not the pond frontage, but I mean, it is definitely developable and definitely something that there would be a huge interest in, either business or residential. And there could well be other situations like that. And if
Yep.
Davis Farm is not, if Davis Farm is listed as undevelopable, that's just incorrect right now, because they're not under the agricultural preservation restriction the way Ishway and Shartner are. And we know that they could potentially do that. And in fact, some of the land that they've got is what they are currently leasing for the solar fields with. So yes, that certainly is undevelopable now, because it's got a 30-year lease on it, but it abuts a number of other parts of open space on that they own that could potentially be developed if somebody decided they didn't want to run Bolton orchards and grow apples anymore.
You also have Bolton Spring Farms and Townsend Farms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
saw
I don't-
Great Brooks Farms. I saw Great Brook Farms listed on the map, and I have to say I don't know what that is, and it's right here where I live. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they meant, because I'm not aware of any farm that is called Great Brook Farms, unless it's what the little school or building or whatever it is there at that used to be Horton's on the corner of, that was that therapy farm. Unless it was a therapy farm, I'm not aware of
Was it
of a Great Brook
Slater's? The
Farms.
Slater's, was Slater's called
Well, it's
that at
possible,
one
but
point?
I didn't realize they named it that, if that's what it was. But yeah, that's the only thing I could think of. But nobody's farming there now. Anyway,
Yeah.
but
I'd like
anyhow,
to
if
ask
this
our
could be
analysts,
done so we could check it out in a little more detail, it would be really helpful to us
Yeah.
all, I
I
think.
mean, it's very it's hard to read the map when you have all of these layers on it. But when you do kind of layer them all on top of each other, it kind of tells the story of how, this map came to be. But I can see if our analysts can give a better explanation of what they did.
Yeah, MAPC tried to do like a build out analysis for us back in the early 2000s, and the parameters, one of the major parameters that was problematic back then was they actually said based on our zoning, how many units could we build out? What was our build out? How many more units of housing would we have in town? And what wasn't considered in that, for example, was the 40B, right? So that increased the density
Right.
significantly because we hadn't met our 40B requirement. So there's a lot of variable and I love and I appreciate this map so much, and I want it to be correct because I think it's an invaluable resource once it is, but it's definitely got to get some more eyes on it.
Yeah, and we kind of attempted to do the same thing, but we did put a disclaimer that it's kind of arbitrary based on the zoning, and we do mention that like the 80,000 square foot lot for residential isn't like the most efficient way to develop land.
To build out because you're just
So
gonna
yeah, it
sprawl
is kind of, it's a similar methodology that I think is pretty standard, but it's really hard to go like parcel by parcel and say,
right.
this is the reason why or why not. But if there are certain
But-
properties that you
maybe
I
that's-
think it's really bad though. I mean, I'm just looking at it and I think it's really not accurate at all.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It
I
needs
mean,
more.
it's like even the golf course
Mhm.
property, a lot of that golf course, they're going to build luxury housing on some of it. I mean, it's just
Right. I
just
think
like
this-
this is just not. I don't know if this map is the one message it's sending is that it looks like there's not a lot of developable land at Bolton, and that's just not true. So I
Agreed.
don't know if
Agreed.
if we need to change the matrix that we're making the map and make a map like this, but use a different set of rules. But, you know, it's like this has to be redone.
Okay. Yeah, I can have them, you know, redo it. I just think based on some of the criteria, there are a lot of places that you wouldn't want to develop, but that's not to say that somebody else wouldn't want to develop there. Yeah,
That's been proven throughout town, so.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
isn't up to what
Time and
we
time
want.
again.
It's what might happen and what we,
Yeah.
what, you know, it should show what could happen and what is thoroughly feasible. There are areas in town that obviously can never be developed. There's wetlands or rocks or whatever, but this is not showing that. I mean, this should show developable land, which is why we need better action on the town's part and on the people of the town to monitor and to pay attention to, especially some high priority parcels. I'm hoping we will be mentioning some of those and really focusing on them and having more community involvement in awareness about the fragility of this town and the quote rural character
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
that depends on some of these parcels.
I think that you're asking for a different kind of map. I understand Olivia is saying that, you know, that your group has kind of general criteria and the map is drawn to that. But I hope you're hearing that it doesn't work. It's not clear here for us,
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
for us to use.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, we can try to do
It looks like a
something
cloudy
like-
day in the sky
Yeah.
map.
Um. Okay.
Who's on land? Is that Bob? Other
Who's it?
other members?
Yeah,
Ken, is that?
yes,
Sorry.
Bob's on it. And I'm on it, but to tell you the truth, these past few years, we've had very few meetings. It's a subgroup that never really got started because the planners kept changing. So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we really only had a couple meetings about we did come up with a process for how to evaluate properties that were abutting town properties or evaluating town properties but you know, I don't know what we were. I don't know.
No, it's okay.
There's a lot that I was, to tell you the truth, very disappointed because we never got to. And, you know, I mean, so far in these meetings, I've only mentioned a few key properties, but there are things in this town that are very vulnerable. And I don't think that's come across. I'm
Do you wanna
hoping
mention
this
some other
master
ones?
plan could make room for some discussion of potential land use issues that,
Mhm.
you know, just get the awareness out there to how our town is a fast developing town and that we are vulnerable because we're always at we're a small town and we have some very large players coming into our town to want to do development. And you know, in some ways, I don't think we're prepared as a town to deal with some of the issues. And obviously, we don't have a lot of revenue. We don't have a lot of staff. We don't have a lot of lawyers. We're very fortunate in that the 580 Main process really went pretty well. and we're getting a development that the town needs, as well as the developer will be hopefully making profit and will be will bring happy residents to
Partner.
yeah, a good partner. So I think a lot of that was very lucky, but it could have been very different, because I think a lot of people haven't really spent a lot of time thinking about the larger issues at play.
I agree.
And
Oh.
this map is like exactly what motivates me to get worried.
So I'm looking back in the 2006 plan now just to see the maps that we had. And, speaking to what you were saying, both Ken and Kia, they all have the base map with the parcel, like the line, property lines on the bottom, which is helpful to kind of, focus you in on areas, specific areas in town, because you'll know your property lines or whatever. But also, there's a one map completely dedicated to pointing out where the farms are and the forests and the water sources, which lands are public conservation, which ones are private conservation and restricted. So that kind of a map I can see being very meaningful, even if it doesn't have, build out numbers and such. It lends itself to people better understanding the layout of the land, and then they can make their own deductions, frankly. And we can certainly point them out too, like, look at this big, huge developable piece of land right next to, XYZ, whatever, where there's going to be vulnerability.
Yeah, we have like a natural resources map. I'm trying to pull it up that shows all that stuff.
Awesome.
So yeah, and like open space, level of protection
Yeah,
and
but-
ownership.
But I think the point is that if the land use section is going to essentially be the framework for future development and get across whatever it is we want to get across, then we need to get that kind of information that would logically be in the open space chapter up here, so that they're integrated together some way or other, and that can be seen. And I would also say that Kia raised a valid point that I don't believe I've seen in the plan, which is the discussion that this committee had about assessing areas of land and what the best use or a process for the best use of that would be. And they were going to do, as a test case, they were going to do the southwest quadrant by 495, which granted has the 580 Main Street in it now, but they were going to look at all of the things that were there, where they connected to the town services that they had in and things of that sort. I'm not suggesting that we do that, but I think to mention that process and the fact that the group did something to think about that is significant enough to put in there. And it may be that in addition to identifying people like Kia who worked on that, we could identify that as something that would make sense to do, even though we haven't done it yet. I would suggest, in the interest of time and things of that sort, that we all spend a lot of time looking at this section and providing comments, and then we can discuss it. Well, I mean, I guess we do have the time to have another meeting to discuss what's going to be in it, right?
For sure.
Now, I guess the question to the group would be, does it make sense to provide comments rather than to each other and so forth to Olivia and have her make changes to the section in light of the comments that she's hearing, and sort of circulate those to kind of keep the ball rolling between meetings? Does that,
Mhm.
I don't think that's illegal, is it? And would that work at your end, Olivia?
Yeah, I mean, it might be hard to kind of sort through everybody's individual comments versus having them all in one place. Maybe there could be like a document or something in the drive that just has each section, and if you have, you know, general comments, you can provide them for each section and kind of see what other people are commenting on.
Would it make sense to hold off on this map and the undevelopable sections of the land use chapter until Olivia revisits it with the GIS department and we get
But could
some
well be. Yeah,
clarity? Because it seems like we're
yeah.
gonna have to
Yeah.
We just-
revisit it and
it's
make
just-
some amendments. So I
Yeah,
don't know,
and-
it makes sense for everyone to shoot comments to her about it
Okay.
when she'll be working on revising everything.
Yeah, I was just thinking of timing though. That if we're running out of time, this is not one of the sections that we want to skim over. And,
Is it possible? Oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't-
no, go ahead.
I'm just thinking of the way that we had other documents up where you could highlight and then put a comment on the side. Is there a way to upload this document into that format so we could like put our comments in? Because I've read through all this whole document, and I have a bunch of not like crazy things, but things like the number, like things that contradict, like that one number or something. You know, is there a way to? I probably got 30 small edits that I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to waste this meeting, you know, talking about them all. But if I could highlight like open space residential design and say, actually, it's a phosphorid here, you know, like those things could happen quick if Olivia doesn't have to organize them and look through emails
Well-
and lists and things.
Right, but that's what she's saying, that if she puts the chapter up as a document, then everybody can get to, then you can put your comments in.
Oh, okay. In that format, in that
Isn't that
highlighted,
what,
and then just
isn't
pop
that
them in?
what, and that's
Well-
okay, isn't it?
I didn't think
a
that's what
lot
she was
got
saying.
lost in the Google Drive because the document's not like compatible with Google Drive. I can try to send out another type of link, but I don't know if it will let you comment to that level. I'll see what I can do, and then I'll let Pam know.
Or if you want,
Could you
we can
make a
just reference.
PDF? Could you make a PDF? Some of us can comment on a PDF.
Yeah, the link I sent out is
Mhm.
a PDF, so you should have that
Yeah.
already.
Okay.
But how
And-
would we comment on a PDF? Like what would work best for you?
You should be able to open it in your browser and just
Mhm.
comment normally.
Okay.
If not, we have a bunch of different type of like file sharing softwares, so I can just send something else that's not Google Drive.
Okay, so Ken, I'm thinking that's a second action then, would be to put our comments into whatever
Yes,
Olivia sends out as a link or a
yes,
document that she wants to collect all this data in, or all these comments in? Okay,
right. And you're correct that if you have small ones or big ones in any of the other chapters, the same thing would be the case. I guess what I'm just saying is that this particular one has some issues that, yes, she needs to get her people to look at some stuff, but we also need to look at it in a more fine-toothed way than we have up to this point.
And can I add my little cry of pain here? That the document that I have does not have, I downloaded it. It does not have much of what you've been talking about. So it has a bunch of skipped pages on it as well, and very few images. So I don't know what the problem is, but
Did you download
I thought
it from the Google
everybody
Drive?
was getting this kind of scaggy chapter.
Did
I
you-
actually did, Sharon, at first, but when I went back and downloaded it as a PDF instead of into my document or
Ah.
whatever, It might be that, because I didn't get any of the visuals when I put it into like my Word or whatever it was. So, but when I did it as a PDF, I had more success. So you might try that.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think, and Olivia, can we download the one you gave us the link to?
Yep.
Yeah, so Olivia sent a link out shortly after Pam did yesterday.
Yes.
Oh, I
And
think I
that's the
didn't
one I
see that.
used. I used
Oh,
her, I didn't download it, but I used her PDF, and it's easy to read, so
okay.
so
Yeah,
that
I
would be a
don't- I
way
don't-
to do the comments as well.
I don't actually look at my computer several times a day, so I thought I had what I needed. I didn't look. I'll try that as well. So,
Okay.
Can I give a
Um,
positive comment really quick? Just because I think it needs to be said, because it's really, I thought, can I do that? Is that okay?
oh,
Yeah,
yes,
go ahead.
please do.
Okay. I don't know who composed. I'm assuming this might have been Olivia, but for whomever, Olivia, you need to pass it on to. On page 8, the major themes of the master plan, I think you guys nailed that. And I like how you broke it down by different themes or different population growth, housing needs, preserving agriculture. But as I was reading that one page, things such as, quote, as Bolton grows, this master plan will aid in fostering a harmonious relationship between development and preservation. Then in the next paragraph, dual commitment to both housing production and land preservation. And then in the next paragraph, balancing potential development with protection of open space. You hit home the major theme, which is that we are trying to guide, we are trying to present a plan as we are, balancing is the perfect word here, but having a dual commitment to these things, that was very well written, whoever did page 8.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Okay, so let's look at section 3. Is this one you've reviewed, Stasha, or not?
Oh yeah, I went through the whole thing. Where are we?
Okay.
Are we in economic development now, or? Oh
No,
no,
we're
this is housing. Mine.
We're in housing.
Yep, we're in mine. Got it. Hold on, getting there.
And I think the way it lists the goals at the beginning and the key findings are the goals at the beginning is good, and the way that it lists the actions at the end is good, because then they all get consolidated into the matrix later, which is good. So
Yep. I was looking. Yeah, I had just some minor things, which
Done a little
I
bit
will
more.
go through that process that we just talked about. Oh, yeah, no, I'm gonna make all my comments in the proper channel. So I do not want to tie up this meeting. I'm just looking to see if there was
This-
anything huge.
by the way, this is the first time I've seen that artist rendering of the 580 Main Street. Yes, that's what I said.
No, yeah.
I was shocked. I was shocked.
That should not be, we need some, I actually had a note at the beginning of this, I bet. I put it at the beginning. Nope, I put it at the end. That said, we need better visuals for the housing section, especially when we're using words like duplexes and triplexes, that you've got to show, we've got to show, I can provide if we needed some better looking, because people are going to think your standard box with 3 floors of living, and it's not, that is not what we are promoting.
Mm-hmm.
So and this is I'm glad you pointed that out, Ken. I actually had a note because there was no pictures of what missing middle housing looks like, but there are words, and those words are density and duplexes and triplexes, and I almost fell over. So I think we need some visuals.
Yeah, and I suspect Bob would have source material from
yes, Randall Arendt. Yep.
Randall that could be put in for that. And I think I've seen it in some other things that either we've done or have seen that some folks might have. I mean, Olivia, you might even have some of that sort of stuff in
Yeah, definitely.
in more
Stock photos.
ruralish sort of settings, but I would encourage, yeah, more of a, I mean, I would almost encourage a photograph at Bolton Woods Way or at Pondside as typical examples of what one could do with housing that it actually exists rather than to show the biggest one we'll ever get.
Yep, I think
That's-
there's a lot
that's
of,
ugly.
there's also my presentation. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry. I just spoke over somebody.
No, I just said, and ugly pictures at that. But
Well,
I
there
had
is
some of
that,
my
but
presentation,
flattering
like
for
Craftsman
time.
Village, like for, an example, even with all the issues it has, it's those are multifamily, they're connected, they're, I don't know if they would fall, they're condos, so I don't know that they would fall into the duplex, triplex definition. But
They're not, yeah, they're not multifamily. They're just, they're like clustered
Condo.
housing or something.
Yeah, connected, right? So like there's, I think, that's a good example of more of a cottage style cluster.
I mean, you could also
trying to do.
the pictures of the ones across the street from Colonial Candies even.
That's what I was just talking about.
Oh, that was,
I
okay.
called it
I
Craftsman Village. Is that-
I didn't
right,
catch the
sorry.
first word you said, so I wasn't
Sorry,
sure.
yeah. But yes, yes, exactly.
That's what it's called. I have those in PDF. I can send them over, Olivia.
Okay, cool. That'd be great.
And there's got to be like online. I know the what is it called? Riverside. There's a really nice little development in Concord or West Concord.
yes, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of when I think of this stuff. And those are like individual units. Some of them. There's some that are attached.
I think
but there
they-
are some detached
yeah.
in the back that are really nice and small.
Yeah, they have shared walls, but I think the shared walls in their garages. I can't remember just what it is, but yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are
So
nice.
cool.
I have a gigantic backyard and I could imagine actually living there without my gigantic backyard.
Okay. So then
I have a couple other maps
that was sort of
are in the works.
an eclipse picture.
What
What was this one trying to show?
This
Oh, the
is
housing
just
density.
showing housing
Yeah.
density where
Yeah, that
it's
was interesting.
concentrated.
I don't know that
Yeah,
we need
and
it,
you
but
can
that was
tell
interesting.
all of them. Like you can see every single phosphorus in there.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, that's
I think
cool.
it's helpful.
Oh, yeah.
We also
Yeah,
were
Absolutely.
thinking of
it's
making
very
a map.
interesting. I've never seen a
show-
diagram like that before, so it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, if you kind of, like Sasha was saying before, if you look at the map of like natural resources, you can see exactly where like the wetlands kind of lie and areas of critical environmental concern. So it's funny how like, development just kind of fits in around those spots, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's all I
Another comment?
had for my housing comments were with the exception of, I'm so glad you brought that up kind of about the visuals.
Okay.
It's pretty standard stuff that I can put in as comments to the document.
Okay.
Okay, then section 4 being economic development. My overall comment was I thought it was fairly toned down compared to what one might have expected to see in things about economic development.
Yeah.
But it did a nice job of reporting some of the public input stuff, which I thought was good. I also had never seen the nodes, but I thought that was very interesting. I don't know exactly what Kia, does this fit into your view of when you've talked about, I guess, you've talked about the Forest Mill to Still River node, but does this node idea fit into some of your past thinking?
I confess I haven't read this yet. But
okay,
it sounds like it, yes.
okay. Well, by all means, take a look at it at some point. And it brings out in here some of the constraints on economic development of the water and that kind of thing. And I thought those pictures were nice. The zoning, I thought was okay. And this was the one where, yeah, I guess you can see the, I think it's number 4 that's listed as Great Brook Farms, which is right there along 117. And I guess you could say that that's, oh, I know what it was. That's what Bruce Slater's restaurant was called when it was a garden store.
Mhm.
Ah,
And it
ah.
started as a garden store.
Okay.
That's what it
So it
was.
was never, it was never a farm.
Now it's
And he
Slater.
wasn't,
So
he
now
wasn't
we're a
growing anything
restaurant.
and he isn't growing anything, but that's what it was. So we might want to not put that in there,
Okay.
but I don't know. On the other hand, I guess it says and farm stands, so I suppose.
He does
Yeah, I
mulch.
think this was pulled from one of the Bolton promotional websites. I forget the name, but it was out there somewhere. Full list.
Anyway, it's a useful
It's,
map
it's,
though.
it's just a
It is
restaurant.
great.
And I think the section brings out agriculture nicely in terms of the business and things of that sort.
Yeah.
I personally think that somebody like Eric Nyland coming to mind, and maybe some other pro-development people in town would feel, if not deprived, at least, oh wow, they didn't go far enough. But I
Oh,
think
just
but
so
I think
you
it's
know,
written nicely though.
just so you know, I've been bringing this to the EDC committee meetings on a monthly basis, so they have
Oh, okay,
been
great.
reviewing these.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I
Okay.
would check with
Well, that's even better then.
Hmm.
Yeah, if there's anything like specific or like upcoming initiatives or, anything we should include, just let me know if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I was I'm not sure if Sally Ann King is still running her daylily farm. Pleasant
I don't think,
Garden daylilies.
I haven't seen her ads in a couple years.
So you might
Yeah, I
want
don't
to
know
check
either.
on that. Zeka Farm Stand, they sold their
Yeah,
house, so that's gone.
that's on Green Road.
Yeah,
Or
some
the-
of these I don't
the-
recognize, so
Yeah, the Vadas farm,
It
is
would
that
be-
still?
It'd be a good idea if somebody, I can't think off the top of my head who it ought to be, but somebody who knows a lot about agriculture in the town could sit down with that map and do exactly what you've just
Mm.
done and said that guy's not in business anymore and it's not that anymore and things like that. And then we could decide what to include or not include.
And maybe put like, I don't know, actually, I was gonna say the farmer's market, but I don't know if that's appropriate to put in here. Not the farmer's market, the backyard Bolton. Which
Mm.
No,
has
I think that's a different thing. I mean, this is more people
business.
who are growing and people who are selling it. And I
Got
guess, yeah, you could make an argument, but backyard
No, that's
Bolton is
okay.
basically just a periodic mechanism to sell, not rather than
An established
a-
business, that makes sense.
an
yeah,
established
because
business.
I'm thinking of a lot of other people that have oh Lord, on Harvard
What
Road.
about Nan? Is she still?
Nan's on there, Hythe Farms.
Oh, she is? Okay.
But on Harvard Road, there's that woman who does weaving, and she's got whatever goats or sheep or whatever that she gets her And then on Green Road, the woman who does who has the goats, and she makes soap.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, I
Mhm.
think you need to go through and find out all of these people who are practicing agriculture to make goods, sell goods, whatever.
There's
Yeah.
also the farm on Golden Run that sells flowers.
Really?
Yeah, they
Oh,
it's
yes,
oh,
yes,
Joy
yes. The
Farm too.
Colbys. The
And Joy
Colbys.
Farm, that's one. Over on Rocky Dundee. They're not on
Okay,
here,
well,
right?
let's see if we can,
Sorry.
let's see if we
I'm
can
all
come
getting
up
all
with,
excited. Sorry.
let's see if we can come up with an ex officio pseudo agriculture committee who can help to identify some of those things, because I think that'd be great things to put in there on the one hand, and to take out things that don't belong in there anymore. And what I would, now that I'm remembering more, what I would say about Slater's is that at the time that Great Brook Farms was there, it was not zone business, that it was after his whole thing got in and up and running and all of that, that he then went to the town to get it zoned. And that's why at the same time, what was then Skinner's got zone business. And so now his restaurant is a business in a business zone, where before it was a farm stand. You could have said it was a farm stand that was selling flowers and things of that sort. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should get together a group to do that. I'm sure we can find the right folks to do that. Because I would think, well, Ken Ishway might be one who would know about that stuff, and he would know who else we ought to get involved in it. So, and maybe Herb Colby would know as well, since aren't they the ones that are selling flowers?
Are they
Isn't
the
his
ones
wife
on
selling
Golden Run?
flowers?
I
Yeah,
don't
he's
know.
the yeah,
It's the
he's
Red House.
Golden Run and Harvard,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
red farmhouse there.
Yep. I always just
So-
put my money in and take my flowers. But that's a
So we can
beautiful
talk with a
one.
few other people. Okay, well, I think we made good progress and we have good homework to do. And so the question now is the question we always raise, which is, when do we get back together again to update all this? Does it have to be a Thursday?
I think that's what was working for everyone. This Bob Romer's out the 25th. And the selectmen are meeting that evening as well, I believe. So I don't know if we want to meet again May 2nd.
We could do that, or we could do May 9th, which is after the town meeting. But
Then we're into the selectmen's meetings again.
I can do the
okay, so-
second.
So do you want to do the second?
I
Okay,
can do that.
I potentially have a conflict, but I will know after I look at after we're done, because my calendar isn't here, but okay, that's fine. So next meeting, Thursday, May 2nd. And so we'll try to have completed this. Now, Olivia, what's the timing of the remainder of the chapters as to when we'll have those to review, and should that May 2nd meeting include review of some of those chapters, or should we concentrate on the ones that we have right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping to have the next 3 chapters done, but I think if we want to focus on edits, if we can get all the edits to me beforehand, I can work that out. But I think if we want to keep the ball rolling a little bit, I can try to get you the next 3 chapters for that meeting.
Okay. All right. So does anybody have anything else? All right. Well, I think we did what our leaders hoped we would.
Why don't we set a
And
deadline?
Thank you.
Olivia, can you work on the land use and can we give everyone a deadline for the sections 1 through 4?
Yeah, for comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Can
mean,
we
it
say
would be
the-
great if you could send those to me by like Wednesday or Thursday if possible.
Of next week,
Week? Is that
Mhm.
too soon?
Yep.
Okay.
2 weeks, Wednesday in 2 weeks. So
Or
the
next
24th.
week.
The
Oh,
18th.
so
by
next
the
week, so the
18th.
17th. So by the
17th or
18th, by the 17th or 18th, okay.
Just 1 week?
Yep.
I'm gonna ask for I'm on vacation next week, so I'm gonna ask until the 22nd.
Okay.
Got it.
I
Yeah,
have
that works.
I have 1
That's
through
a mo-
2 done. I just need to finish.
Yeah, that way we can swap. You can give me your comments and I'll give you more stuff to look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of even that out.
So master plan on Monday, the 22nd.
No.
We're not meeting, we're just getting
No,
our
no,
comments
no.
to Olivia
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
on
comments.
sections
she
1
just- she
through
just-
4.
Yeah,
Yep.
she just
Okay,
changed the
okay.
deadline.
Ah,
The
got
meeting-
it.
The meeting
got
is
it.
still the 2nd. But the
Okay, got it.
comments
All
are
right,
due to Olivia on
There
the
we go.
22nd.
got that.
And I'll keep you guys posted about the map and what methodology they were going with and see what the deal is.
Okay,
Alright.
that it?
Wonderful. Thank you
So
for all your
meeting-
work.
To adjourn?
I'll make a
So
motion.
moved.
At
Motion to
8:51. Okay, very good.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.
everyone. Thanks,
Good
Olivia.
night.
Thank
Okay.
you, Olivia. Thank you,
Thanks.
Pam.
Okay.
Thanks,
Have a
everybody.
good
Yeah.
night.